Hello everyone, A Funky Monkey here. Today I'm on Lamania previewing the new update that's going to be coming out sometime next month, I can assume. I'm right now in the test dojo, and I'm going to start off here by showing you the new items that will be coming up in the update. So, we'll just go over here. They have a vendor which shows all of the items. We can just buy the items right here from this guy. So I've spent some time looking through these, and I'll give you a quick view here of how many there are. A lot of weapons and some helms in this update, and then a few items. And we're also getting some more filigree here. The city's beacon. Interesting set, I'll get to that in a little bit here. And then there's a new rune arm. Anyway, we'll start from the top here. In my opinion, most of these items are mediocre at best. This orb right here is a necro orb. The necromancy focus +8 is nice for any PM and just necrocaster in general. It's designated mostly looks like for a PM with the negative healing amplification, the nullification, and whatnot. Overall, PMs kind of have a hard time of it in Endgame Reaper just because of the healing penalty, and not a lot of people can heal them. And that +8 is nice, and I can bring up right here the Night Mother's Scepter from Ravensloft, which is one of the best caster weapons in the game, and it's only got a +7, although I'm not sure it's worth it to swap this out just for that +8. If you're a pure necrocaster, then maybe. But a lot of casters, they have multiple spell books, and it's nice, but as someone who runs a caster, I don't run a PM, so I wouldn't use this at all. It's not worth it, in my opinion, to get a +1 to your necro DC just for that spot. It's just too big of a hit for that, and I wouldn't trade out my current setup. But if you're a PM, this seems geared towards you. It could work, but I don't run PMs, so I'll leave that to other people who do. We're getting a shield here also, a large shield. So it's for like a tank, endgame tank wouldn't use this. So I'm not sure if this would be a sword and board build. Like if this is geared towards like a paladin for a shield and sword. For an endgame tank, you're going to look at a tower shield and whatnot, just for the bonuses. So not a lot of endgame builds nowadays focus on using a shield and a sword. The only one I can think of really would be a swashbuckler, but those use bucklers. And so this one also, this two-piece set here, natural armor and constitution, not worth killing for. That's my opinion there. It's not do or die there. Could be interesting, but I don't see it being picked up a whole lot by a lot of people. That's just my opinion there. Moving on to these maces here. Now these maces are pretty interesting. This two-piece set is actually pretty powerful. +15 melee power and +10 double strike to both main and offhand is pretty decent. And it's got a pretty good base damage rating. I have here a couple of the items from Ravenloft. So here's the Night Mother's Mace. So this has a significantly higher base damage rating, and it's got a better crit profile. So all in all, that's a pretty good item. And I could see this being used by a lot of people for like an undead beater when you get to skeletons, and you need to bypass that bludgeoning DR. This would make a pretty good pickup. And then here's the other one. So they're a two-piece set, and you dual wield them for the set bonus here. This one's got Sovereign Disruption, so again, this would be more of an undead beater. I could see like any two-weapon fighting build swapping these out once they encounter any sort of skeletons or whatnot. And these are, in my opinion, these are pretty good weapons here, especially with that two-piece set. I would, if I'm making a Tempest build or any fighter build that uses two weapons, it'd be worth it. Next up here, we have a longbow. I actually don't have the Ravenloft bows here to show you. Actually, maybe I do. Let me see. I think I have. What's the new bow from Ravenloft down here somewhere. I have it in my inventory probably. Yes, Void. So we can compare the stats on the bow from Babala Saga here. This one's got a better crit profile and a better damage reduction. And a lot of people consider the Void to be a very subpar bow in general. And it's, other than this Conjure Ice Arrow, it doesn't really have a whole lot. And this new one, I'm not sure. I actually don't know what the Trace of Madness does. All of these weapons here and items have Trace of Madness on them. I don't know how that affects it. I don't know what you do to remove it. Okay, it's not all of them, but some of them do. I don't know what the bonus is you get once you remove that. So that's something that could change this. Overall, this is a better bow than the current endgame bow Void. And currently, I wouldn't consider Void an endgame bow. If I was making a ranger that used a longbow, I would go with Temple Elemental Evil for the set bonus. But I haven't actually ran the numbers because I'm actually a Shuriken, and most of the endgame range builds nowadays are Shurikens. I don't see this bow here changing that in any significant way. I don't think, even with this improved crit profile, I don't think you're going to still out DPS a Shuriken with Spite. That's just, I don't see it happen. So, we'll continue moving on down the list here. This is a Scepter here now, and this is, again, it seems very specifically focused towards one particular casting group in general. Let me pull out the Morning Lord Scepter here. So this is the caster scepter that gives you increased spell power in Ravenloft. And in general, these stats are higher, especially with the evocation focus, and the enchantment focus is better than what you get on the Night Mothers, my bad. And this resonance and sonic lore are pretty powerful, but the main issue with this is not so much with the numbers here, it's just with the build in general. At endgame, you don't see a whole lot of DPS casters. Any sort of casting is focused only on the DC, so the resonance and sonic lore is not that useful for an endgame caster. Most casters that run in High Skull Reapers solely, really anything that does it on a regular basis is going to be a DC based caster, either a Necrolock or some sort of PM or DC wizard. So in my mind, my caster is mostly an enchantment and illusion focus. I don't know. I don't think I would drop my two current weapons, which are legendary green steel and a Night Mother's weapon. I wouldn't necessarily just drop it just for that +1 to enchantment focus. I don't want to mess that setup, especially since I use a lot of other weapons, spells, my bad, Necro, Illusion, and Enchantment as well, and it's not worth it in my opinion just to drop the Night Mothers for solely that +1. And the other benefits, I don't use any sort of spell power often. It's just solely DC now at endgame. And this one's interesting here, a light pick. I think that's the heavy pick I grabbed from the vendor from Ravenloft here that we have here, the Test Dojo. Yeah, it's the heavy pick. So we can sort of compare these two. The heavy pick's obviously heavier, but this one does have a good base damage rating. I didn't see one in the Ravenloft section, and picks in general haven't really been useful from a DPS standpoint ever since they fixed the auto hit, auto crit on hold monster and helpless mobs in general. So it's an interesting choice to include this. I don't see it being used, in my opinion. There's other weapons that we'll get to here in a little bit that will be much better for any sort of 2-weapon fighter, and without having auto hit, auto crit, it's not a really viable weapon anymore. And we haven't really seen any sort of pick build ever since they removed that back when level cap was 20. Some interesting effects here, though. We haven't seen a weapon with Heartseeker in a long time. But overall, I mean, it's not going to make a difference at endgame for this. And I don't see this being used. Also, we have a Dwarven Axe here. And this one, I didn't actually grab a Dwarven Axe from the Ravenloft set. So, overall, it's not a bad Dwarven Axe, but in comparison with this update, I don't think it's going to be used at all. There's better weapons just below here. A couple more down. We'll get to them. But with this, armor piercing's not necessarily an issue. I've looked. Some of the new content's mostly focused towards flesh monsters like halflings and drow. So, not necessarily needing a whole lot of armor piercing. If you really need armor piercing, you can twist it from the Shadow Dancer Destiny, but it's not worth swapping out other weapons, especially the weapons we have farther below here. So overall, I don't think this is going to be used a whole lot. The crossbow here. So repeating crossbow. I don't really run ranged builds that use crossbows, so I'm not necessarily one to comment on these. But overall, it's got a decent crit profile there. I don't know. I didn't actually grab a crossbow from the Ravenloft vendor, so I can't compare it to the current ones. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll talk to my guildmate maybe later this week and see what he thinks of them. But I don't. No opinion on this one. Now we get to another Warhammer. There's also we had Warhammers in the Ravenloft set. I think did I grab one here? I thought I grabbed one. I don't have one apparently. Now, in my opinion, though, this is not going to be used at all, especially when you consider the maces up here. These maces are, in my opinion, the much better option here. It has a higher base damage rating. It will also bypass the bludgeon DR. It's got silver. It's got Medaline on it, so it'll bypass just about any other DR, especially if you put a good argument in here. And it also has a much better two-piece weapon set. This one is focused. I don't know who would use this for this. What this is intended for. +1 to critical multiplier 19 and 20 is nice, but then with a +4 to rune arm DC, I don't know any artificers that run around with a warhammer in their main hand. So that seems kind of weird to include that on this weapon in particular. Maybe it's a typo. I don't know. But definitely with this, just in general, the mace is better from a damage standpoint, and it's got a much better two-piece weapon set. So if I was running a two-weapon fighter, I wouldn't even consider the Warhammer. I'd just go with the mace. And now we get to some more interesting weapons here. Let me pull this one up. This is a Falchion, two-handed weapon. We haven't really seen a whole lot of these. And one of the things I've seen from this update is they kind of want to introduce some weapons that we don't really see a lot in the raid loot or whatnot. We haven't really seen a Falchion that I can remember there might have been one caught in the web. I don't remember. Again, one of the big bonuses for this weapon is its crit profile. A 15 to 20 crit profile is very good. But it has the lower multiplier is not quite on the same level as a Great Axe, and in general, in Endgame Reaper, two-handed fighting, my bad, is you just don't see it. It's all two-weapon fighting. Maybe a Swashbuckler it can do well, but for the most part, it's all two-weapon fighting. You don't see two-handed builds anymore, especially at Endgame. They can do well in lower levels, so maybe this will be a better weapon when you TR, going from like 14 to 20. But by the time you get to level 30 and you're running endgame, you just don't see two-handed builds. Now, we get here to what, in my opinion, is probably the best item in this update, the Scimitar. Let me pull up the Ravenloft equivalent here. Oh, I didn't compare the Falchion. I have the Falchion here from Ravenloft. And in general, the stats on this are much lower. So in every department, basically, the new one is going to be a much better improvement. And here's the Scimitar from Ravenloft here. So as we can see here, the new one has a two-piece set bonus. Nothing to nothing great. The one on the maces was much better. This is just a bonus to natural armor and constitution. Nothing significant, nothing game changing. What's really nice here though is its crit profile. 15 to 20 is a very nice crit profile. I'm actually going to pull up the Kopesh from this is from Strahd, my bad. And this is what most people use as an endgame weapon for any sort of two-handed or two-weapon fighting, any two-weapon fighting Tempest build, or similar. And in my opinion, this new scimitar is going to be the weapon of choice. Much larger crit profile, even though it has a smaller crit multiplier. That crit profile is going to be enormous on a two-weapon build. And it's also got a not much higher, but a significantly higher base damage rating here. So, in my opinion, this will be and is the best weapon in the update, and well, best item in the update. Next, we have some more caster weapons. These sickles are focused for fire and ice caster builds, which, again, like other ones I mentioned earlier, suffer mostly from the fact that endgame casting on it from a DPS standpoint is non-existent. The evocation focus is you're not going to get higher evocation focus anywhere else, and the combustion, Sightful Combustion, Fire Lord, those stats here are great, but you just don't see endgame Sharadi builds at all. There's no more Sharadi sorcerers. Warlocks endgame really struggle if you're a blaster. It's just anything above 5 skulls, the drop off for your damage is just so significant that it's not worth it. You're not doing enough damage for the amount of spell points it takes, and you're better off using DC spells. And that's why PMs still continue to be sort of relevant. But in my caster is an Archmage, and I don't even bother with any sort of damage spells, because the amount I'd have to spend to get anywhere close to bad is huge, and it's just not worth it. You're not gonna be any sort of significant DPS in endgame, and so that's the main issue with these weapons. Even though they're good, they're not endgame weapons. Well, they're endgame weapons. Just the builds that would use them are not endgame builds, and that's the real issue. Next, we come to what, in my opinion, is the most disappointing part of this update, and it's the helmets. Ravenloft did not include helms, and I was kind of disappointed about that. One of the big issues with Ravenloft, in my opinion, was that it didn't include any sort of helmet or headgear, and these, they don't really do anything in particular. Charisma 19, potency, plus to your charisma skills, spell sight. It's not really great. It's just mediocre. You know, charisma 19, you can get that in other places. Potency, like I said before, if you're doing spells as a damage perspective at endgame, it just won't work in Reaper, and it doesn't really fill any of the gaps in any of the Ravenloft gear. This one here, like, again, Wisdom 19, you can get that on other items. Trucian, you can get that on other Ravenloft items. Healing Amplification 80 is nice, but you're gonna forsake your entire gear set just for that. Will 16, I could see like a caster, like maybe like a heal bot using this, but so this might be one of the better ones, but you know, nothing apart from that. This one is, in my opinion, particularly bad. Dexterity 19 is, you know, it would be just fine without it. Even in my current gear setup, I have the Van Richten spectacles, which completely obsolete it. So I wouldn't even consider it from that standpoint. Pull up here again. Dodge 19 is nice because it can be a hard one to slot. I'd use Caned Crafting, but it's not it's not worth dropping any sort of it's not worth dropping the Executioner's Helm, that's for sure. Armor Piercing, again, if you're having trouble with Armor Piercing, just twist the Grim Precision from the Shadow Dancer tree. Reflex 16, if you're any sort of dex build, you're probably already running with these spectacles. And I don't know what the Trace of Madness does, but it better be something good, because this helm doesn't really offer anything else. It's just mediocre. It's just overall not great. Now this one, Intelligence 1, it just kind of seems like Intelligence 19. You can already get that on Ravenloft gear. Shatter 22. I don't know if there's a typo or whatnot. It doesn't seem like, maybe it's for like a rogue. For Sunder Attempts, just seems really out of place. Wizardry 412 is probably higher than anything else in Ravenloft or before, but not by much. You're maybe losing 60 spell points, and I am not dying for spell points. This is the one I could probably see being used the most, just for the Disable Device and search skills, and that's about it. And that's the only reason I would use it. We got a couple more here. This one, again, Strength 19, you can get the equivalent in Ravenloft. These other ones, Stunning 22, you can already get in Slave Lord's gear. As for Deadly and Seeker, you can get items that are close to that and do well. Currently, most DPS builds are running the Executioner's Helm, and I don't see anyone really dropping this helm for this new one. Sure, you pick up 2 Seeker, but you already have a lot more with this, with the Executioner's Helm in general. With the Insightful Deception, Quality Combat Mastery is pretty big for anyone that uses any sort of DC based abilities like Dire Charge or Stun and Blow. And then Relentless Fury, 5% damage on a kill, is very nice. And you can, if you can fit it in, you can get a more likely a 3-piece Slave Lord set, so you pick up a little bit extra of melee power and deadly there. And then as for the deadly, you can get like a 14 on like the on the ring from the Harbor quest. So it's nothing to be, you're losing +1 or 2 to your weapon damage there by not wearing this. And the only reason I could think that you would even wear this is if it had a Reaper bonus on it. And even then, I don't know if I'd swap it out for the Executioner's Helm. It's just not good enough, in my opinion. And then we have the hit point version here. Again, Constitution 19. You can already get that or better on Ravenloft. Vitality 67. I don't know what the current Vitality numbers are, but I feel like it's not game changing in any sense of the word. Fortitude 16. You should be already running some sort of resistance bonus. Won't make too much of a difference. One of the funny things is none of the real Ravenloft items had fortification on them, so from that standpoint, it's filling the gap that was left in the armor fortification from Ravenloft armors, but it's just mediocre. And again, I don't know what the Trace of Madness does, but right now as it is, I don't see a whole lot of people. I think this one and then the one with the dexterity skills or intelligence skills, my bad here, are probably the two that are going to be used the most. This from some sort of trapper that wants to get that bonus to their disable device is pretty nice, but other than that, they're just mediocre. If you're a caster, you're probably going to be running Panasonic Circlet or I forget the one, but the one from Mark of Death. Those are probably two of those helms are better for a caster than the current one here. And if you're running any sort of DPS build, you're probably running the Executioner's Helm. I skipped these gloves here. For a caster, or for a cleric, the healing amplification is nice. Not worth dropping it for any sort of DPS build, but I could see a cleric heal bot picking this up. Now we go to the heavy armor. This is another one. I don't see anyone drop in the Ravenloft armor for this. The 2-piece bonus is not good enough for any. It's not worth getting for a tank. I think the bonus given by the Ravenloft set is going to make it much more useful. And Stifle Constitution. I don't quite remember what you can get in Ravenloft, but I think you can get +9 Constitution insight bonuses. But overall, Parian, you can get that on Ravenloft sets. Fortification, 200%. Most tanks probably have a lot more fortification than they need already, so no real point in worrying about it. And overall, I think any endgame tank build is going to stay with their Ravenloft set they have at the moment. These bracers, I looked them earlier. Let me check them again here. Rune Arm focus. So this is a Artificer bracer, and again, Artificers, they're dead at endgame. You don't see. I can't even remember the last time I ran with an Artificer at endgame. So trash. And this trinket here, this seems focused for a PM. There are still some Pale Masters running around at cap, so I could see some people picking up. The magical efficiency is nice. You get another spot for that. I currently have it on my gloves. The gloves from the, I can't remember the raid's name, the one with Korkaz in it. It never got ran a lot, so that has it on there. But I have a hard time thinking that a lot of casters are going to drop their current trinkets. A lot of them are going to be running. I'm trying to remember what I'm running. I can't even remember. But overall, I mean, nothing special. That's my opinion here. The negative healing application is nice, but at endgame, when you're in Reaper, it doesn't matter. You're not healing yourself. So, and then we have the new Filgary set, which is interesting. I'm not entirely sure who would use it for the set bonus. Displacement for 10 seconds isn't really worth it. I mean, it's not worth. You're not going to swap it out like to get the displacement clicky and then swap back to your current weapon set. But I don't know. Maybe so some of these are. In my opinion, it's kind of weird what they have. A lot of Filgary sets are focused for like damage or casting or whatnot. But this seems to be all over the place. You have intelligence, and then you have melee power, and so maybe for a rogue, and then you have strength, sunder. I've never really used sunder at all, so trip. It just seems, in my opinion, to be a very weird Filgary set. Fortification, you shouldn't need to have fortification in a Filgary set. You can get that. You can get plenty of fortification elsewhere. Melee power. If you're running a melee build, you're going to still be running with the prowess set. You're not going to swap that out for this, in my opinion. 10 seconds of MRR is not good enough to swap out a prowess set. And then we have the last item here, which is the Rune Arm. Again, as I said earlier, you don't see in Artificers at endgame are just extinct at this point. So I've never really played an Artificer, so I have no idea if this is an even good weapon, but it doesn't really make a difference because I've maybe seen like 2 Artificers at endgame the last year. They're just dead on arrival at endgame at this point. So that sums this up. And these are all the new items from Update 38. I don't know the exact date when it goes live. It's currently end of March. I imagine maybe within a week or two, first week or two of April is when we might see this drop on live. But that's just speculation. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this and have a good day.